All right, so I am here today with OM Systems, and actually, you know what? Let me get my phone out because I have a lot of questions to ask. Well, I don't want to forget any of them, of course. So, this is Mike. Hey, Mike, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Mike Amico with OM System, and I'm a technical account manager for North America.
That's what you do for OM, right?
Yeah. So 50% marketing, 50% sales. Yeah.
All right, now, so we are here. What event is this? Tell me a little bit about this event, because this is the Cape May.
So this is the Cape May Fall Festival. So basically, for us, it's a birding event. We're here to support the birding community and showcase, the OM product and talk to the consumer about, what's so great about OM for birding and wildlife and all that. So, and it's been great. I mean, the people here are great. It's always a fun event to do. You're on Cape May. And the birds have been good. So, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll tell a little stories here. So 6 years ago, I think it was, I came here, and this is the first time I'd ever run into what was then Olympus personnel, and I showed them some of my pictures on my cell phone and the astro photos that I was doing, and Steve Ball was manning the booth back then, and he encouraged me to start a YouTube channel, and so here we are 6 years later. I've got close to 13,000 subscribers, which I think I will hit in a day or two.
Nice, congratulations. Yeah, Steve's a great guy, great photographer. I just saw Steve I was in Washington not long ago, a couple weeks ago, and I saw Steve at an ABA event. So yeah, great photographer. Yeah.
Now, okay, so here, my next question. I want to dispel a few rumors. So,
my favorite.
So the EM10, the rumor is that it's not in production anymore.
No, EM10 is still going, still sells really well. And, the EM10 is interesting because I actually have it here, but the EM10 is entry level, but yet I always called it a step from entry level, right? It still competes very well with what's out there at the entry level price point and does really well for us. So no, EM10 is still rocking and rolling. Yeah, sure.
Okay, that was my next question. Oh, yeah. The 8mm f1.8. Everybody online is saying that it's out of production.
Yeah, 8mm is not, 100%. So still in production, but what you're probably seeing is sometimes there's a little hiccup because we're changing the name over. So you'll see the Olympus 8mm go to the OM System 8mm. So it's probably something you're seeing in there as far as production and things like that. But, still in production, 100%, and one of my favorite lenses. So
yeah, so really, I guess we could warn all the keyboard warriors out there that just if you see it go out of stock, it's probably because they're switching over the name basically.
That's right. We're in the process of doing that with all the lenses. Unless they're changing anything with coatings or anything like that, like they did with the 12 to 40, everything else is pretty much just changing over the name, as it goes. So that's what you're seeing with the 8mm. Yeah.
Yeah, and now coatings, is that just the front lens element that changed, or did they make some changes to the entire formula?
Typically the front element. We put the fluorine coating on, obviously the zero coatings, some of the lenses that may not have had it or what have you, but like 12 to 40 they added the fluorine coating, the newest zero coatings, and everything else in the lens was the same. So just little updates here and there. Yeah.
I know, and I got to ask you about the Pen F. This is a crazy camera because it is selling now for more than it did brand new.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the Pen F's great. I still have cameras, absolutely. But yeah, no, I love the Pen F. Yeah.
I know, we use it for family stuff. My wife loves using it. Like actually, when I showed her the camera, she was like, "Oh, that's a camera." She saw it here with Steve Ball 6 years ago, and she looked at it and she said, "That's a camera I would use," And so I got her one.
Yeah, Pen F is one of my show-off cameras. Like I like to go around and just kind of show it off. 12mm, 17mm, just kind of walk around with it. It's a fun camera. Definitely shows off some of the, just the cool Olympus feel, right? So it's got that classic kind of feel. So I love that camera. Love retro cameras.
Yeah, it definitely is in the retro class. All right, let's see what my next question is. Okay, now this is one. I know OM Systems has switched to an outdoor adventure type photography brand. Now, could you define what categories does that kind of encompass?
Yeah. So what we did, it's actually, it's very simple actually. So, it was actually happening before we became OM. right? So we kind of started this back around, I would say around 2018 maybe with Olympus. Started kind of finding where we fit in really well, finding our genre. And, what happens is our industry is still a pretty big industry. And, you have your big players, you have your smaller guys like us, and it's hard to compete with everybody and everything. It's hard to be everything. We have beautiful 1.2 lenses. They're great for weddings, for portrait, but it's hard to compete with, I don't know, Canon on weddings and portrait, things like that. So where do we really fit in? Where do we shine? And obviously the weather resistance, the build quality, they'll take a little bumping and bruising, right? You can bang them up a little bit. The outdoor really called to us. So we kind of started to really niche. We were already going after the birding market, with the focus speed getting better and better, the computational features getting better and better, the processing getting faster. So that was part of it. And then coming to OM, we just fully went into these genres. And so we have 4 genres, and it's birding, wildlife, macro, and landscape. And so you can kind of break those out as you want, like outdoor, landscape could be astrophotography. It could be just your traditional landscape, things of that nature, camping, hiking, a little bit of travel photography, right? Then you have your macro. The macro in the 4/3 sensor is amazing because you have that depth of field, more depth of field. So it's great for macro. The 90 gives you a 2-to-1 out of the box. You want to shoot spiders handheld, there you go. So it kind of fits those categories. And then of course, birding, wildlife, the focusing is getting faster and faster. It's gotten more and more accurate. So that's where we shine. So that's kind of where we niche. And that doesn't mean that you won't see us branch out little by little here and there and as we grow. But for now, that's sort of where we're at. And it's worked really well for us. So yeah, it's amazing stuff.
I know probably 10 years ago, I've always done wildlife photography, and I tell you, even using other brands out there, like the high-end ones, the Canon and so forth, the autofocus just was not there.
Sure.
There were so many situations where I was taking images, and I felt to myself, I could have done this better manually.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and it's interesting with 4/3 because I've worked with other companies as well. So I was with Panasonic actually when 4/3 was introduced. So I remember the initial 4/3, and they were like point and shoots. They were just cool cameras. It was a great concept. But the focusing was like, okay, it's my point and shoot. I still had my SLR. And I think we all did, right? And so I would say over the years, the course of maybe 4 years from that, maybe 2012, your SLRs really took off with that focusing. And they were really good, right? And 4/3 was kind of coming into its own with style and weatherproofing, but that focusing wasn't quite there, right? And I think around, I'd say probably about 2016, when I came on board with Olympus, with the EM5 II, the EM1 came out. And I think that was where things started to shift a little bit. You really started seeing that really nice phase detection sensor, the 121 crosshair points, and all that. And then go into the OM1 series with 1054 crosshair points, quad cross autofocus. Really started to get more and more and more accurate as we went. And for the guys who haven't shot 4/3 in a long time, a lot of them got stuck in that past 4/3. They almost forgot that as the industry changed, well, so did 4/3. We're part of the industry, and it got better and better and better. And once the industry turned a corner a few years ago, the Z9 Nikon, the A1 Sony, Fuji X-H2, OM1, you had that processing turn a corner, and that really started to speed things up and really kind of make it a lot better, more accurate. And the bird focus, that got even more accurate. Now we have humans, so you have the planes, trains, automobiles, cats, dogs, birds, human, it's pretty cool.
Now what about street photography?
Yeah.
That's kind of a genre that's just kind of making a comeback a little bit.
It is, and we've always done it great with cameras like the Pen F, right? Or even the EM10, the smaller cameras that get you out there. So, will we see something in the future? Hopefully. I know that, we're building stuff, we're making stuff, and we're not stopping. So, we'll always have things coming out, and hopefully what everybody sees will be exciting as we come out with things. And, all I can say is that at this point, I would guess that everything coming out will be ours, which is nice, as you go through with R&D and things. But yeah, I would like to see that as something we could do, but we'll see, it's that outdoor.
To me, though, it seems like as far as street photography goes, like the OM5 and the EM10, they kind of cover it.
They do. I don't know why it's that rangefinder thing everybody wants, but they do cover it. And I think I think the weather resistance is great. I mean, I love the EM10, but I always try to step up to that OM5. I think the OM5 is a fantastic camera, you know. I mean, I would have loved to seen a joystick on it, maybe the new menu, you know, of course. I mean, I'm a fan like everybody else, you know what I mean?
Well, there's always that button real estate.
Yeah, right.
You can only put so many buttons on a camera.
Right, exactly. And, you know, but this is a great camera. I love my EM5 and I love my OM5. So, you know, when I first came to the company, the first camera I learned was an EM5. And so I'm kind of partial to it. I love throwing, again, that 12 millimeter is one of my favorites. You throw that little hood on there and it gives the retro look. I love that 24 millimeter, you know, equivalent. So, yeah, fun little camera. So we do have it covered. We're just not focusing on that with our genres, you know. And you know, Ben, that's one of the things that's interesting in our industry. It's become so focused on tech with the marketing. You know, your big guys are tech guys, so they have the marketing, so it's tech. Megapixels for cropping, right? Low light capability, megapixels. But nobody talks about photography, and that's what we try to do. And so, you know, I think it's interesting how someone will come up to me and say, "Well, can I shoot portraits with your camera?" Of course you can. It's a camera, you know. But if you don't tell people and hold their hand these days and say, "Hey, this is a great camera for portraits," nobody thinks you can do it. You know what I mean? It's really interesting. But yeah, they're cameras. I mean, you can shoot anything, you know, as in reason. So it's a matter of everything's great now, and everything has benefits and negatives. So it's what are the benefits of what I have, but what are the negatives? And I'm a problem solver. I'm a photographer, and I figure it out. So which camera calls to me, you know? But so far, I think the lineup is great, and it'll just get better and better. So yeah.
Let's see, next question here. Okay, let's cover a couple of the lenses. Okay, but specifically the big boys, because we're at a wildlife conference.
Sure.
You know, let's start with the 300 f4.
All right, 300 f4 is one of my favorite lenses still. It was my favorite for a long time. It was really all we had for a long time, right?
Yes.
But 300 millimeter f4, so you're a 600 equivalent at f4. And I want to clarify that one, so because there's a lot online about that all the time. Well, f4 is actually an f8, you know, and do we want to get into that? Because that could be an hour if we want to get into that. Anyway, this is my 600, and this is fantastic. It's one of the sharpest lenses that Olympus ever made. About a 4-foot telemacro. I mean, I've taken this to butterfly gardens. It is a fantastic lens. I always throw a 1.4 converter on it because I go to a beaver marsh near my house, and they're pretty far out there. So this is just a fantastic lens, 300 millimeter. Love it.
And now, those of you that are interested in like astrophotography with a lens like this, you know, I've got a buddy who has this camera and this lens, I should say, and it's sharp, wide open. It is a very, very sharp lens, and there are a ton of astrophotography targets that fit perfectly in the field of view that this lens has.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. It is super sharp. I mean, it's a prime. It's really one to try to strive to get another lens as sharp or a zoom. It's tough. It's really sharp. So it's one of our best lenses. You know, just like our 75, right? That was always one of the great lenses in the lineup. 100 to 400 came out not long after the 300, and this was one a lot of people were waiting for. You know, it's not a giant lens. It's a, you know, fairly small lens. I got it locked up here, I believe, upside down because of this. But not a super long lens. About the same when it's extended as the 300, a little bit bigger. About the same weight. But you're 100 to 400, 5 to 6.3, so now you're 200 to 800 equivalent. So again, you're getting that reach out there with a smaller zoom. So 4/3, micro 4/3 came out, smaller and lighter, right? More compact. As mirrorless, as everybody became mirrorless, my OM1 is the size of an R6. You know, it's the same weight. So the bodies on the Pro end are about the same size, but as you go into the zooms, you start to become smaller again, and that's where this really shines. So yeah, 200 to 800 equivalent, all weather resistant. You can pour water on the thing. And then from there we go to the newest lenses are 150 to 600, which is a fantastic lens. I mean, this is a lens that is super sharp.
This lens tempts me right now.
Yeah, I mean, super sharp. It is a little weighty. It is heavier. You know, if you're a birder, you might want to have like a little bit of maybe a monopod with you. But it's super sharp, and you're figuring it'll get you to a 1200 millimeter equivalent, 150 to 600, 300 to 1200. These will take the teleconverters. They will do that. I tend to stay away because of the f-stop on these. I will put the 1.4 on there. but a lot of guys shoot them and they get great results. And it's just a matter of everybody's shooting style. But this one, I mean, with the OM1-2 and the stabilization, at 150 you're at 7 stops, and at 600 you're at 6 stops stabilization. That's fantastic, man. So pretty cool little lens.
Now, this guy has sync image stabilization. This one does not.
This is not sync.
Yeah, but this one does have it well, and that's something. A lot of people glance over that feature, and it's like, really, that's a big money feature right there.
It is. I mean, the non-sync, basically, this camera or this lens will sync with the camera, but it's not sync stabilization. So when you first put it on and you're at 100, you're pretty much syncing. Everything's there. As you zoom out, it goes right to the lens, and you're about 2 stops in the lens. So a little higher on the shutter speed. You got to kind of know how to shoot it, but fantastic lens. A little sleeper is the 40 to 150 2.8. Always been a great lens, always sharp, but 80 to 300 equivalent. So for birds, unless you're close, a little tough. But because it'll take the 2x converter and it's so sharp, it's actually not a bad combo with the 2x. Now you're a 160 to 600 5.6, and it's all internal and small. So this is a great little sort of sleeper in the line. And then, of course, the best lens we have is the 150 to 400, of course, and it's very deceiving. This is carbon fiber, the hood, and when you pick up the lens, it's super light. I mean, it really doesn't feel like what it looks like, and it's all internal zoom. 150 to 400 f4.5, so you're a 300 to 800 4.5, and then when you flip down the built-in 125 converter, it brings you to a 500 5.6 or 1,000 millimeter equivalent. So, I mean, all day long you can hand hold this. If you want to enjoy nature, you can spin it around your back and enjoy nature, and you don't even feel like you have anything on your shoulder. So that's the beauty of 4/3 with nature and with wildlife, and that's why we shine in those categories.
I know. I have this lens, and I've used this one for birding quite a bit. I typically use it with a teleconverter, which is one of the reasons why this lens is so attractive to me, because for not much more, I'd have what this one gives me with a teleconverter, only I have sync image stabilization and more glass, basically.
So my best-selling combo at the bird shows is the 100 to 400, with the OM1. Yeah, I mean, it's a great price point, and it gets somebody out to 800 right off the bat, and it's lighter than most of the cameras they're carrying now. So this is the best-selling combo, for the show. And right now the lens is $999 with a rebate in America. So it's $1999 for the OM1. So for about $3,000, you get a really nice kit for birding. That's amazing. So,
and as far as weight feels, like that guy has kind of like the same weight and balance as the white lens.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's fantastic. I mean, I've been carrying around the 150 to 400 and, loving that lens. And I just want to show you something if I can. Pick it up for a minute. At it, see?
Yeah.
But yeah, just to... I love showcasing the weather resistance when I do a talk, because that's what we do, right? I mean, but yeah, to show somebody that you can actually take a combo like this. When I started with the company, I'd always, talk to my buddies in the industry about the cameras, and they always touted the weather resistance, and, I always said, yeah, okay. And I always took care of my cameras. I was always babying them, because we spend a lot of money on equipment. So when I came here, the first thing I did was I walked around with the EM1 and the 40 to 150 at the Columbus Zoo, and it poured all day, and I just left it hanging on the side, and it got drenched, and that thing worked perfectly for years. So I've always beat the crap out of my stuff. I really do, and it's great, So I love just not to waste my water, but I love showing that you can just pour stuff on the camera, and it's amazing. Watch you don't fall here, Travis.
I'll tell you a story. So I have 2 E1s, okay, and of course they were weather sealed as well.
Oh, yeah.
And one time I did a picture. I took the lens off the camera and I stuck it in the sand at the beach. And I posted it on the forums. There were people who were mad at me for doing that.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, you can't do that. Kevin Lachlan over here at Wildside Nature Tour is one of our tour partners. And Kevin has the 150-400, the OM1. He's gotten hit with surf. In the Galapagos, he got hit with a saltwater wave. There's actually video of him rinsing off his camera. So you can't dunk them, because then they're not waterproof, right? So where the lens meets the body, that's your weak point, right? When you get pressure. but you can take them out in the pouring rain. You know, you can rinse them off if you get dust on them. So I think it's a great feature for the cameras. Once again, why we kind of go to that outdoor thing right now. So yeah, had to do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So let's see here. All right. So we cover all the lenses. I know we don't have an EM1X to sit on the table, but I gotta ask you about the EM1X.
We're filming with an EM1X.
Yeah, we're filming with an EM1X.
EM1X.
I know you've had one for a long time. You still use it.
Oh yeah. EM1X is a great camera. Yeah.
I know one of the biggest complaints that a lot of people had was with the size. Okay. But like I often argue with people, like if you compare it to the other built-in battery grip cameras out there, it is the smallest one.
Yeah, it is. Surprisingly, the Z9 kind of felt like my EM1X when I picked it up. I'm like, was that my EM1X? The EM1X was a fantastic camera. I think, you know, the shooters in 4/3 that didn't really get it just aren't into that type of camera, you know. But the guys who did buy it loved it, and it had a great feel. I mean, the microscope designers at the time, they painstakingly went through a bunch of molds to try to make it feel like that microscope, to try to make it feel really good. And they settled on what became the M1X, and it just really felt great in your hand, ergonomically. And then all the buttons, you know, having like a raised button, having a lowered button, having bumps on a button, you just knew where everything was. You had your eye up to that viewfinder, and you knew where everything was. So I think that's what really made everybody gravitate towards it that loved it. It was great for outdoors. It was great for what you do for Astro. Just really fantastic camera. So
yeah, because in the dark, being able to find a button is because heaven forbid you turn on a light at a Star Party.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you look at the top of the EM1 and it has like a little space where you almost think they could put like an LCD. And I almost wonder if they thought about doing that. I always think about that, but then the idea is that you want it at your eye all the time you're shooting. So you don't really need it. Everything has to be here. You have to feel the buttons. And I think that's where, you know, you don't have something like that. There's no flash. It's just here's the camera, here's the buttons.
I know. With the Mark II, they made a few improvements on a couple of the buttons, the way they feel. You know,
yeah,
so
they did do that. And also, I have to say, with the OM1, the grip that you can put on it, the HLD10, it really does integrate well with the camera. It's not the M1X, you know, but it does integrate really well. I mean, it looks really good on the camera. It doesn't feel as much like a grip, if it makes sense. Like, and most of my cameras over the years, you put a grip on, you have a grip on. This one actually feels like it integrates well. You know, there's not a lot of real estate to spread the buttons out, but they do a good job. So it's not a bad grip at all. Yeah.
I guess last couple things it does is like, and I don't know, since you're here, maybe OM Systems will be watching this video, and I always put out my advocate there. So astrophotography and like all the different branches of photography are pretty much stagnant right now. They're not growing anymore. Okay, they are what they are, but astrophotography is one segment of photography that is growing. Okay, there's a lot of interest in space right now, especially since we're trying to go back to the moon now, with SpaceX and everything.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Yeah.
And like my advocation to any manufacturer that is watching this video is to consider astrophotography, because we are growing like bonkers. Okay, like NEAF was 4 times bigger this year than it was 4 years ago, and it was mostly people in their 30s that are starting to come now. So just the perfect market segment that you want to grab. Okay, is that particular market segment?
Well, it is part of outdoor, so you know I'll definitely make mention. You know, it's something I can definitely make mention and look into. But I do agree. I think there's been a lot of interest in it, and especially with, you know, like we have a Comet out there right now. I mean, you know, there's been so much going on with different things in space and exploring again, which we haven't done in a long time. Yeah, definitely a resurgence, you know, for the Astro. So I will make mention of it, Ben, for sure.
So one last question is like, can I get a hat?
I could probably find one, and I will get you.
Everybody watching my channel knows I'm all about hats.
All right, and you'll see Ben with a hat.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Great meeting you, Ben. Absolutely, thank you.